Good morning. We will rock and roll just a couple minutes like always, but take a look at this train wreck. I'm going to take you inside and we're going to talk about rebuild or knock it down. And today I actually have the builder on site, so we will all get to argue about this together. See? That is what those little bastards called termites will do to a historic home. And then what we have to do to keep it standing up. Look at that. That is all termite damage. And it will just flake off. There is nothing there. Not a damn thing. If look, that is all, everything holding the house up. Right there. So when they started to go through it, it's all termite damage. Look, it just like fades away. Right in your hand. All right. Yeah, same debate. Tough debate, but we actually have the builder here, so we're going to talk about what the ultimate decision was. I'm just going to give it a minute or two for people to come online. And then somebody asked me in the last video if there was an attic. And I said, no, I don't think there's an attic. Well, when we get inside, now that they've gutted it, you'll see everything that's gone on inside. And we actually have a whole plan for this one. So, yeah, termites are no joke down here in the south. Let me spin this around. So if you're going to move to the south, or really, I mean, you should really have it anywhere, but this is why we have termite bonds. And a termite bond is, you sign, it costs too much money. It's like $1,000, but it's basically an insurance policy that says if the termites ever come back, that it's the fault of the termite company. But when people who don't want to pay $1,000 to get a bond and they let their houses in a semi-tropical area sit untreated, and that's how you get this. Really? Really? This is a stud. It's supposed to hold up the house. And you wouldn't know until you got it. Hi, kitty. Oh, hello. Hi, do you want to be on TV? Hi. Oh, I wasn't expecting a co-host today. Are you one of the neighborhood cats? Yeah, you sure as hell aren't missing any meals. He's a big boy. All right, let's go find the builder and I'm going to take you inside of this. I still think we should knock this thing down. I've lost that argument though. So let's find Steve. Steve Dutton and Sarah Dutton are the owners of Swan Song Properties. Bought this. We're going to change it around in a couple months if I don't burn it down first. Let's see what Steve is doing. Let's see. Steve is trying to rebuild the house that I think we should knock down. Let me get over here. All right. Let's talk about joists, Steve.
Yes,
because that's what holds up the house. This is all structural, correct?
This is all structural.
All right.
And,
take me through it.
Of the dozens, if not over 100 historic era homes we bought and restored, this one had the most amount of surprises, not the least of which, of course, was the termite damage, which permeated the whole house. Now, in the crawl space, a home inspector would have found termite damage. We would have bought it anyway because we just planned to take these old houses to the studs. The assumption usually is that there's studs left.
Not here.
No, there were no studs. And I mean, there's still some of the original floor joists here. A lot of the floor joists were okay, but I mean, this is just a small example of the start of the termite damage. On this side, this is actually the sill beam. Thankfully, this is actually pretty good. Like, you hit it with a hammer, it doesn't collapse. It's, you know, you can see where the termites started, but looks like they continued on up and didn't destroy the sill beam. So
amazingly, no active termites.
It is hard to fathom the prospect that this entire house was literally eaten by termites and we didn't see a single one.
Yeah. Well, they're full.
Yeah, right.
They're
probably
full.
filled up
They don't
now
need any more.
onto the neighbor's house. Yeah, this is actually a small example. I mean, there's studs and joists and beams in the house that literally you can grab with your hand and break right off.
Are these the original nails?
Those are the original nails.
Wow.
And I don't remember what year this house was built, but if I had to guess, it was in the 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
So the house is about 100 years old. And, you know, termite damage and moisture damage is common in these old houses. This just happens to be an extreme case.
Yeah, so you've had to go in and put all new joists, like sort of sister them up against the other ones?
Well, and here's another thing I hadn't seen before. It doesn't surprise me. The original joists were 32 inches on center. So, you know, building codes have evolved over time, and the new building code is 16 inches on center. So we're certainly adding a joist between the original joists, and where an original joist needs to be replaced, we'll sister it or replace it. So we'll end up with 16-inch on center joists.
Okay. All right, let's go inside, and I'm going to flip this around. The last time that I was here, they were tearing down the drywall. I don't think it was plaster.
There was plaster in the house.
And it was messy, but it's always messy when that stuff is coming down. And my thought was, well, this doesn't look too bad. And then I came back this week with Steve and Sarah, and things have changed. Things have changed. Let's go inside. It's gone. The whole damn house is gone.
Like the rest of us, you had underestimated how not too bad it looked.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was really bad.
So when did it go from my version of not too bad to we're going to rip out the entire inside of the house?
Yeah, well, I mean, even my thoughts were, certainly before we bought it, was, hey, this isn't too bad, because it looked much like every other 100-year-old house we bought. We're just going to, you know, gut it to the studs. The problem was, and even a home inspector will admit, that you can't see the actual extent of termite damage until you start exposing it by tearing out the walls. We realized that the termite damage was throughout and comprehensive. I mean, it permeated all the walls, all the joists, the ceilings. The ceilings had actually been covered up by an additional ceiling a foot lower than the originals that at some point in the life of the house was installed by the occupants to cover up how nasty the ceilings were. So it quickly became obvious that this was going to be a lot more work than we had originally expected.
Aren't you so grateful for your real estate agent who found this house?
Yeah, thanks,
yeah,
Casey.
anytime.
Nicely done.
That, and none of this, I mean, I didn't see any of this kind of train wreck when we were in here.
And if I can point out, since we're looking at the floor, this, be careful. This was the original subfloor because they had planks back then. They didn't have plywood, right? So this just got torn up this morning, right? So it was on top of the joist. It was these planks. On top of the planks was this horrible product that was introduced, I don't know, sometime in the 70s or whatever. I guess they called it plywood. I've always called it like wafer board or whatever. It's basically pressed cardboard. And what people have been known to do in old houses like this, whenever there's problems with the floor, they just put floor over the floor.
Yep.
So they went over the original with this crap, and in some cases there was yet another layer of plywood on top of this crap. So we've been digging and digging and digging just to get to the joists.
And while I still think that maybe we should burn it down, Steve is committed spiritually to rebuilding this house.
Yeah, spiritually. Good word. Well, there's several reasons why we'd rather rebuild it than tear it down and build new. One of which is we couldn't, to match current like zoning requirements, we'd have to build a smaller house because of the setbacks for this particular location. So I don't know why I get so hung up on restoring the antique house, but I do. And Casey, to your credit, came up with an idea today. We were going to tear these chimneys out, but essentially fixing them and keeping them will add so much to this house because we've got two symmetrically flanking chimneys that will be some of the coolest features in an old house like this. And people love the old stuff like that.
So let me kind of paint this story for everyone watching. So this is, you walk in the front door, right? So here's the front door. And then our thought was, because we didn't really know what to do with that chimney, which is coal. It's not, you're not going to put wood in there. And then that chimney over there. And so the thought was, well, if we leave them and just use them as sort of these like decorative, I don't know, to sort of just anchor the room and then also preserve them and just not tear them down. Are there any complications with restoring old brick?
Not really. I mean, it looks to be structurally sound. There's a few cracks. Our repair of them would be largely cosmetic. We're not going to go to the length of assuring anyone they can bring firewood and have themselves a blazing fire in their new chimney. That's not our area of expertise. So we'd basically cosmetically fix them. If someone were compelled to do so, the easiest thing would probably be get a like self-venting gas log insert or
just
something.
put those in there.
So if they must have flame, that would be the best way to go. And even then, I'd want them to do it, not me. So they'd largely be for looks. But still, just kind of one of those cool, original old house features that I think people love. You know, people who buy old houses from us love the fact that we restored the old house instead of built a vinyl, you know.
Vinyl village.
Equivalent, yeah.
We've got lots of natural light here.
That's a feature.
That's a feature. We'll be charging extra for that. I'm going to spin this around and I'll quick tell you about the one last decision that we were trying to make today. So I do think that we'll end up keeping this fireplace and I don't have much room to work here. This one and just using them as decorative features. But the thing that Steve found that I didn't even realize was here is above me. Because when I was here last, they were tearing down the ceiling and there was a drop ceiling. I don't know why, but there was. But there's all this space upstairs that they think that they can turn into an office and another bedroom. The problem is, if you see behind me, we don't have acreage here. There's not a ton of room to move. And so where do you put the staircase? So we were all sitting in here, well, standing, you're not gonna sit in here, trying to figure out where the staircase goes. And the running theory, which I really like, is to put a spiral staircase right back there and have that lead up to the second floor. The obvious problem with that, though, is how do you get furniture up a spiral staircase? You get itty bitty furniture. That's how you solve that problem, or inflatable furniture. So I'm gonna flip this back around. We'll take one last look and then we'll let them get back to work. Steve, is there anything else you want to point out or that I might have missed?
I think you've covered it.
All right.
I'm sure.
And that's the original roof. Yeah, that's a 100-year-old metal roof.
Yeah, that's the way they did it. I mean, it was like
That's
open
wild.
sheathing.
That is wild. All right. All right, everybody, we're going to wrap up here. So if you have any thoughts, opinions, or prayers about where we should put the staircase or even the floor plan, that's our next big decision, is how to lay it out. Put it in the comment section and we will just keep you highly entertained as we go through this really beautiful train wreck. Bye, everybody.